Hello and welcome. I'm joined today by Gareth from Money Lab to talk about self-managed super funds and how Money Lab can help your self-managed super fund work for you to get an investment property. Gareth, tell me a little bit about self-managed super funds. How do they work and what are their basic function?
Look, basically self-managed super funds, without going into too much complex detail, is a way for you to manage what your super does for you. Obviously, most of us have, before we have a self-managed super fund, we have our super with an industry fund or some sort of major superannuation fund, and what that does is they control it for you. And a self-managed super fund is a way for you to control what your money does for you towards your retirement.
And how does a self-managed super fund compare to a traditional sort of investment fund that most people might be more familiar with?
Look, when you put them side by side, depending on what you do with your self-managed super fund, obviously as you're in control of what your money does, it depends a lot on your choices. So there's no hard and fast rule, but as an example, people that put investments in property, for example, with the self-managed super fund, tends to outperform your standard industry funds. What
sort of client do you typically recommend a self-managed super fund option to?
Well, look, we will conduct some research and assessment of the client before we make any recommendations, but as a general rule, anyone who wants to have more control over what their money is doing towards a super and their retirement, I would recommend to definitely look at it as an option.
Self-managed super funds can be really confusing and pretty complex. How does Money Lab make that more palatable for your clients, and how do you make it easier to understand and actually use?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, the biggest misconception out there is the self-managed part of self-managed super funds. People often think it's going to be this really complex, hard work for them. They're going to have lots of compliance burdens, but in reality, it's just like an accounting. You don't do your own taxes; you get your accountant to do it. And the same way that with a self-managed super fund, you get a company like ours to take care of it for you. I mean, the example I always use is that it's kind of like you're the captain of the ship. You get to steer the ship, but you don't man the oars. Let us man the oars. We'll drive you there, but you get to pick the direction.
So it all sounds great. What are the first steps for me as an investor to get involved and make the most of a self-managed super fund?
Yeah, well, the first step is just to give us a call or let us know you want to have a chat. We'll come out and do a free assessment of your situation, especially if you want to talk about whether you want to invest in property using your super, which a lot of people don't know they can do. So we'll go through your goals basically and find out what you want to achieve and see if a self-managed super fund's right for you and go from there.
Canberrans typically have big salaries and large supers. Do you feel like this is a product that could really do well here?
I think if anything, you're more suited. Canberrans would be the prime candidates for a self-managed super fund with really strong super balances and incomes. It makes you the prime candidate.
If property investment is something that you're interested by utilising a self-managed super fund, come into the Geocon sales office and say hello, and we'll put you directly in touch with Money Lab to see what your options are to get you into an apartment.